If BytePro is already installed on your computer, you will have this icon that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. This should be on your desktop. To open BytePro, you're going to double-click the shortcut on your desktop, or you can click on BytePro Enterprise that's going to be found in your Start menu. All right. This will take you to a login screen. Your login is typically going to be your username and password. This should have been provided to you by your manager. If you haven't gotten that yet, please make sure you reach out to your manager to be able to log in, or you can contact us, BytePro Support, and I'll give you that email a little later on during this training. Now, just so you know, after entering your username, which will usually be your first and last initial, and the last 4 digits of your social, you'll be prompted to select the appropriate security profile. Here's an example of what your security profile will look like. Mine might look a little bit different than yours because this has to do with authority levels. Some of you may have multiple profiles to choose from. Each of these roles will allow you to view a loan, but the options that you have will be limited based on the selected profile. The important thing to remember here is if you have multiple roles to choose from, you should always log in with your highest authority level. So welcome to our pipeline screen, or more often referred to as your pipeline. This is the tab you will land on each time you log in. Now, a quick way you can tell you are on the pipeline screen is by looking in the top left-hand corner. Notice there are 4 other tabs. The first of those 4 tabs is the dashboard. Now, when you're looking at the dashboard tab, this is the first thing that you're going to find. To run a report, you're going to simply click on the Run button. You can add up to 10 reports on your dashboard. Moving forward, there's another tab that we can take a look, and that's going to be our Task tab. However, GEM does not use this function. Next, there is our Reports tab. These are reports that you can use to manage your pipeline. Reports can only be created by BytePro Support. So if at any time you want a report, a custom report made, you can contact BytePro Support in order to get that created for you. Now, this is just a quick look at what that Reports tab will look like. Similar to what you will see when looking at your dashboard screen, you're going to be clicking the Run button in order to run that report. Or you can simply double-click on the desired report. Now, there's also the Cardex tab. All right, the Cardex is a list of contacts in BytePro. There are some Cardex reports that the branches can add. However, most of the records are managed by corporate. All right. Some examples of what you'll find here are things like escrow companies as well as GEM approved appraisers. When adding a contact to the Cardex, you will use the New or Add button on the toolbar. So you'll see that item highlighted here. Excellent. All right, let's keep moving forward here. We're going to take a look at the Pipeline tab in a little bit more in depth. The Pipeline tabs that I'm referring to are what you're going to see highlighted here. All right. Each tab represents a different pipeline view which operates like a filter. And I'm going to start from the far right-hand side with Standard. This is going to allow you to see all the loans in your pipeline. You'll be able to see where a loan is regardless of the status, regardless of where we are in the loan within that Standard view. A few things of note here is even though there are no filters, you can still sort through the Standard view by clicking the column headers. Again, Byte is very customizable, very user-friendly in the sense that a lot of these columns can move and adjust, and you can filter or sort based off those column headings. Now, one heading in particular I want to highlight is going to be our status header. And the reason why I want to highlight the status header is because there's going to be a couple different ways that we can take a look at this file, sorting it by the status here, or by actually utilizing those filters that's going to take that status, take the loan status into consideration. A quick way to view your active files is by using the processor view. This view will not show you any canceled, denied, funded, or purchased files. A big reason why the processor view may be ideal to use is because some very important and useful columns will only be found under this processor view. So we talked about standard, how you can see all of the files no matter where we are in the loan process. Well, there are certain columns, like that status column that we highlighted, that you will not be able to see in the standard view that you'll find in your processor view. Some examples of that would be app date, established closing, subject property address, as well as lock date. All right, let's go ahead and keep going here. This view, which we're looking at now, is the prequals view. This view complements the processor view as it will show you files coming down the pipeline but have not hit application status. Our next view is going to be the LE redisclosure required view. This pipeline view goes hand in hand with application taken not disclosed. We haven't talked about that tab yet, but the application taken not disclosed view, which we'll talk about shortly, the purpose of these two views are to help you stay compliant. Byte will be able to recognize when your file becomes an application. For the most part, these views will show you loans that need to be disclosed, or more specifically, when it comes to this view, loans that need to be redisclosed. The exception view refers to files with a funding exception, not an underwriting exception. Moving forward, we have our closed loan view. This view will allow you to see all of the funded files. We have our branch manager retail view. This shows every loan in every status. This pipeline was created to reflect the information a branch manager may want to see that is not available in the standard view. So a quick example of that, the branch manager view shows the investor and if the loan is locked into the hedge. The funded not purchased or insured view is great for processors. It is very similar to your closed loan view, except it shows you only funded files that are not purchased or insured. Now, after the loan funds, you are going to be able to hold on to that paper file. Once the loan is funded and or insured, you can shred the paper file. This pipeline view will help you determine if the file is purchased or insured. And the last tab that we'll see here is going to be our application taken not disclosed. This tab will show you all the loans that have an application date that have not been disclosed as of yet. If this tab is blank, that's a good thing. This just means you do not have any loans yet to be disclosed to your borrower after the loan has moved to the application status. We know that we can sort our columns using the headers, but once we sort our columns, there's a lot of useful information that you want to be aware of before you open that loan. So we're going to take a closer look here. Something that initially jumps out at you is a variety of colors that show up. All loans are going to start off in a white status. They're all going to start off white. Now, when they start off white, that just means that the loan has been submitted. Once the loan has been received by underwriting, the file will go from white to blue. All right, that's going to tell you that that file has been received by underwriting. All right. Next, we have green. Green means that the loan has been approved by underwriting. That's an awesome thing. We want that to turn green. Yellow means the loan has been suspended. And then red just lets you know that that file has been denied. We want to see that as little as possible, obviously, but this is just going to tell you, color coordinated, that loan has been denied. Something else that you'll notice, these exclamation points are alerts. All right. Here we notice there are alerts pertaining to our lock expiration on several different loans. The alerts inform us that the lock expiration date has expired on these loans. All right. Now, a cool trick here that I kind of want you to highlight or hint, make sure that you put a star next to it or highlight. If you double click on the alert, it will take you to a quick info screen that we're going to dive into a lot deeper later on in this training that will provide you with more information about the loan. All right. We're going to take a look at that, like I said, a little later on in this training, but double clicking on that alert will take you into our quick info screen so you can actually see what that alert is. All right. Here's just an example of what that quick info screen looks like. And we're going to talk about each of those tabs at the top of your screen. That's what you're going to pay very close attention to. We're going to talk about each of those tabs when we're looking at our quick info. But the key thing here is double click on the alert. It will take you to a quick info screen so you can kind of see in more detail what that alert is referring to. All right. Like I mentioned before, the alert that we saw was in regards to our lock expiration. If you look here on the bottom right-hand side, you'll be able to see lock information there. Some details in regards to that lock info. And notice, you'll see that lock expiration date. Yes, this has been expired for a long time. It's a screenshot. It's an example. I just wanted to give you all an example of what it looked like, and there it is. Okay? All right, let's keep moving forward here. The last item that might be a little hard to notice, but it's equally as important, is going to be something that's going to be found on the left-hand side of your screen, the far left-hand column. You're going to find a blue box with the number 2 inside. Now, what does that mean? This box gives you a quick way to tell that the loan is synchronized with another file. All right, you'll always see the number 2 there. A 2 just means that this loan is synchronized with another file. All right, so a 2 will show for the first, second, and third mortgage if that loan is synchronized. All right, so don't be misled that 2 does not represent just a second, just a synchronized second. Just lets you know that it's synchronized with another file. All right. Some folks were not aware of that. It's one of the things that I had to learn. I thought 2 meant synchronized to a second only, and it's not. That's not the case. So make sure you all know that. If I didn't know, some of you might not have known either. Keep moving forward here. The final yet most commonly used search option is the search sidebar. All right. On the left-hand side, there's a search sidebar that we're going to be able to utilize. So let's talk about that. All right. There are a number of different ways that we can search using the search sidebar. You can filter your search by using any of these options, like loan officer, loan processor, or branch manager. You can also filter your search using any drop-down filter to filter your pipeline with specific roles, things like your auditor, underwriter, doc drawer, funder, and other roles like that. All right. So you should see that highlighted on your screen. The bottom option will allow you to click and extend those roles that you can do your search by. Or you can search using the file name, which is your file or loan number, first name and last name, or first name or last name. You can put in either or. Now, a quick tip here that I want you all to jot down: when using this section, you want to utilize that matching drop-down. So that's going to be highlighted here for you. The matching drop-down will give you 3 options you can choose from to help you search quickly and easy. Those 3 options are going to be exact, start, and within. Now, I can honestly tell you I have never used within, but a good option to use would be the start option, because this will populate all the loans with the information that you enter, even if you don't enter all the info. So you enter partial information, and it will give you all the loans that apply to that partial information that you enter. That's a very useful way to do your search. All right. Moving forward, if at any time you would like to view your entire pipeline, simply click clear and then hit search, and you'll be able to see all your loans in your pipeline view. All right, so just clearing it and clicking search will allow you to be able to see all the pipelines in your pipeline view. All right, now I mentioned this before, BytePro support. If you have any suggestions or ideas to add, or something that you want to see in regards to these pipelines, or maybe you have a different pipeline idea altogether, a different pipeline view that you would like to see, feel free to email BytePro support. We can get that done for you. Sometimes. Depends on exactly what it is that you're requesting. Everything is customizable, but to an extent. But make sure you all highlight that email. If you have suggestions or different pipeline ideas or pipeline views that you want to see, send us an email. We can make sure that we get that added for you, if it's possible. If it's not, we'll let you know. All right. Go ahead, we'll take a quick breath here, see if anybody has any questions that they want to jot down before we move on. Make sure I give you all a moment to jot those questions down. We're now going to go ahead and start moving into some of the other things that we're going to see within our pipeline view. There are a lot of other buttons and things like that, a lot of other icons that we haven't talked about yet. So let's talk about those, all right? The icons that I'm referring to are going to be found at the top of your screen. Notice not all of the icons are available for you to click. Some are going to be grayed out. You'll see that pretty much throughout Byte. If it's grayed out, there's a reason. It's not something that you're going to utilize on a day-to-day basis. If you find that there's a section that you are supposed to have access to, again, email BytePro support, let us know. We can see about getting that field active for you, but there's a reason why it's grayed out. It's grayed out because of your authority level that you're signed in with, and typically, depending on that authority level, it's letting you know these are fields that there are certain fields you should use and certain fields you shouldn't. The ones that are grayed out are fields that you're not going to be able to use depending on your authority level. So let's talk about that. I'm going to get everybody right side up now. We're going to work our way from left to right here when we talk about our icons. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with our new file. Icons like the new file icon are going to be talked about a lot more when we get into our origination training. There's going to be other trainings a lot like this one. We're going to do one specifically to origination, and that's where we'll dive a lot deeper into a new file. This is just a quick screenshot of what it's going to look like when you click on that new file icon. All right. Moving to our right, we have the open file icon. That's pretty straightforward. You can simply highlight the loan you wish to open and click on the open file icon. I don't really use that option very often. I double click on the file to open it up. But there's something that's pretty cool that you'll be able to utilize within this open file field. And that's by clicking on that little triangle that you see to the right of that icon. That triangle is going to open up another menu for you. And that menu is going to allow you to do a function that we call open in sandbox. So let's talk about that. This is going to be a very useful, extremely useful tool that can be beneficial for you. So let's talk about what open in sandbox can be used for. When you click on open in sandbox, you will notice a pop-up warning. All right? It's just letting you know that you're opening up a file, opening up that loan in sandbox mode. Now, when you open that loan in sandbox mode, it's going to look just like what we're going to see in a little while. It looks just like you're in a regular loan, except for a couple different fields here. These two arrows are going to highlight a couple of pieces for you that's going to tell you you are in sandbox mode. All right? So what is the purpose of sandbox mode? Why would you want to utilize sandbox mode? This mode will allow you to open the file and make changes without saving those changes to the file. This is going to be extremely useful, all right? This mode will allow you to open the file and make changes without saving those changes to the file. Also, at certain statuses, you'll be locked out of a loan, all right? You'll be locked out of that file depending on the status. For example, if a processor has submitted the loan to underwriting, processors, you're going to be locked out. But for some, there's going to be certain instances or certain situations where you're going to want to access that loan. You can still access that loan by utilizing sandbox mode. Now, if you wanted to see how the loan would be affected if you raised or lowered the loan amount, you can do that also in sandbox mode, and the changes will not be saved. Again, that's all these benefits that you'll have when you utilize sandbox mode. Now, just a warning, there are some limits to this playground. I call it a playground, sandbox playground. You all can make the connection there. In this mode, you would not be able to interact with interfaces, nor would you be able to print any docs, except for a fee worksheet that you can give to your borrower, or a comparison form which can be used to compare scenarios for your borrower. All right? So the sandbox is your playground. All right? Very cool tool. Not a lot of people are utilizing it to its full potential. If you have questions about that, email us and let us know. We can provide you with other things that you can utilize sandbox for, but the sandbox is your playground. Let you do a lot of things within that sandbox mode within that loan without saving it. All right? Just to get familiar with what's going to happen if you make changes. All right, let's keep moving forward here. Quick info buttons as we look at our our icons here. The quick info button is the next one we're going to take a look at. This button is exactly what it sounds like, provides you with info, as well as screens that are important to the loan quickly, all in one easily accessible location. Now, once you click on the quick info button, this is where you're going to land. All right. Does this screen look familiar to you? If it doesn't, that means you weren't paying attention. Shame on you. This is what it's going to look like. All right. We saw this when we were looking at our alerts. It took us here. Here's another way to get to our quick info. All right. Right now, what we're looking at is the Home tab within our quick info screen. So I want to kind of briefly just mention this. The Home tab, you'll be able to see all your basic information, status, critical dates, borrowers, and things like that. If you go into the loan, and I'll show you, we'll take a look at that in just a little while, it's going to give you a lot of the same info. This is just a quick way to access that. All right. So let's kind of work our way left to right again here, what we're going to actually see when we're in our quick info tab. Now, we're going to start off with our alerts. The alerts tab will list all the alerts on the file. All right. This will list all the alerts that you have on the file. As we saw when we looked at our pipeline, you can get into this by double-clicking on that red exclamation point that's linked to the loan. Quick note here, alerts will only be seen in Byte and not by email or external notification. Hint, hint, make sure you all note that. All right, alerts will only be seen in Byte and not by email or external notification. We talked about the Home tab a little bit, and like I said, we're going to dive into that a lot deeper when we get into the loan itself. Let's keep moving forward to our right here. That's going to be the processing log. This is going to be covered a lot deeper in a separate training as well. But I still want to give you an idea. What's the purpose of this? The purpose of the log is to track what items are still outstanding that you need to get before submitting your file to underwriting. All right, so this purpose of this log is to track what items are still outstanding that you need to get before submitting your file to underwriting. This log also is useful for managers and loan officers to see how far along a file is in the loan process. Now, a useful tip here, something that a lot of folks, again, are not utilizing, is this folder. When you're looking at this folder, when you're looking at your log, when you're looking at the processing log. Now, what is the purpose of that? That folder will allow you to be able to quickly see the documents that are associated to the file. All right. So those folders just tell you, here's an idea that there's a document associated to a file. So in this example that we have highlighted in regards to our title, we see a folder there. That's just telling us that the title has already been associated to this file. Now, if I click on that folder, that's going to open up the document that's been associated as well. So this is just a quick example of what that would look like. Very useful tool, not many folks are utilizing. We want to make sure that we highlight that for you because it's something that can be very useful and very beneficial. All right. Again, if you are following along in your participant guides, just so you know, we are on page 19. We're just moving right along here. On page 19 currently. All right. Give everyone a quick moment to jot down any questions or comments. Some of your comments might be, wow, that's cool. I never knew we could do that. That's cool. Jot that down too. We like to hear stuff like that. So send that over to us as well. I'm okay with that. All right. Let's keep going. We also have our conversation log. The conversation log is a place to record conversations with borrowers, anyone assigned to the file, or any third-party vendors. Be aware that everyone can see this conversation log, so be nice. All right? Be careful what you're putting here because everyone can see that. Now, to add a note, you're going to want to use that universal add button. I mentioned this before. You'll see this throughout Byte. But this add button is where you're going to go in order to add a note. Now, there's a couple of steps here. So I want to kind of highlight these steps because there's some useful tools when you're adding a note. So I want to make sure we point those out. Again, some cool features that we want to make sure that you're aware of. When you're adding a note, you're going to want to make sure that you're clicking on the Edit Notes button here. All right, you'll notice that field is going to be grayed out. Don't be alarmed. It's not that you can't add a note. You just need to make sure you click Edit Notes first. When you click on Edit Notes, it's going to open up that field, allowing you to be able to enter information or enter what that note is. You can also set alerts, all right, when you add a note. Now, those alert options are going to be either red or yellow, and we're going to talk about that as well. What is the difference between the two? But when you're adding it, make sure you click on that Edit Notes button in order to start to add that info. Your screen will look like this once you click on Edit Notes. And you'll notice a couple other fields open up. So in this example, I've gone ahead and I've set this alert to a red alert. Yes, that's a song, by the way. If you don't know that song, never mind. Sidebar. Moving forward, if you open up that field, when you click on Edit Notes, it's going to allow you to enter that note. A field that's going to be very useful here that I wanted to highlight for you is at the top of your screen. You can designate who sees the alert by clicking that Everyone hyperlink. Hyperlinks, by the way, always active within Byte. You can click on that hyperlink, and it's going to take you to another screen within Byte, or give you a tool that you're going to want to utilize. Here, where it says Who to Alert, you can specify the role, and you can also specify if you want to delay that alert. Maybe you want to say that you want to put an alert here for 5 days out. You can click on that Delay Alert Until hyperlink, and a calendar is going to open up there, and you can then say, I want this alert to come up in 5 days. All right. Again, very useful tool that not a lot of people are utilizing. All right. Moving forward, we keep moving to our right here. We have our status. We mentioned the status screen before. Here is one of the ways that you can access that status screen. The status screen tells you the current status of the loan and when the loan hit other statuses. All right. So if you have questions in regards to when did this loan move from pre-qual to an application, you're able to see that here. Furthermore, what's going to be extremely helpful is when the loan is much further in the process, you can always come back to the status screen and we'll give you a quick little checklist. Here's where the loan kind of moved from one status to the other. All right. Now, a very important note here I want to make sure that we highlight. The move from pre-qual to application status is the only automatic status change. Again, the move from pre-qual to application status is the only automatic status change. All other statuses must be manually changed. All right. Byte will recognize that the 6 data elements, everyone say that to yourself, the 6 data elements have been received, and the system then says, oh, we have those 6 data elements. This loan is now, this pre-qual is now an application, and it will automatically move it. After that, it's your responsibility to move it forward to change the status. All right. Moving forward, let's take a look at our Parties tab. The Parties tab is a place where you can find all parties associated to the loan, not just internal parties, but also third-party vendors. All right. So examples are going to be things like the seller, escrow company, hazard insurance, etc. Not a lot of folks are utilizing this quick info button to be able to quickly access this info. Can you see this when you're in the loan? Absolutely. This is just a quick way to do it. To add a party, you can double-click the line that you would like to add and complete that window on the right, as seen here in our screenshot. Now, a helpful hint here, you're going to want to use this Cardex button. Using the Cardex button will allow you to select a party from a list to add if that party has already been stored and available to select. All right. How do you get to that list? You'll see this drop-down show up when you click on that Cardex window, and you just say Select from List. Once you do that, you'll be able to access anything that's any party that's already been stored, and you can then pre-fill a lot of that information. It's a lot quicker if you're able to pre-fill it rather than filling out each individual field. All right. Lastly, there's field notes. Field notes is where you'll find any internal notes on the file. These are notes at a field level. All right. Especially useful if a field has changed. We're going to talk about that. How can you tell if a field has changed? How can you be alerted if a field has changed? And we're going to see that in this example here on the next slide. Now, some of you might be familiar with this already. A lot of you might be actually. These are our compliance lights. You'll see this when we get into the loan. This is just an example of what that would look like. Now, clicking on the alert will show you the notes that someone entered on that field. So the alert that I'm referring to, remember we said red exclamation points are alerts. Here it's just letting you know you have an alert, and specifically what kind of alert it is. You'll notice this says a field alert. My boss, Angela, she's gone ahead, she's made some changes in here, so I'm able to see what those changes are and be aware that there are some changes here. All right. So what would that look like? When I click on that, alert, this is an example of what you'll find. All right. So this is just a field note, the details of that field note. Here, we noticed that there was a note regarding the appraisal value changing. Now, when you take a closer look at the loan info, which you're going to see here, the appraised value is red. That field is red. This indicates there is a note for this field. All right, so you're looking at your compliance lights. You see below that, you see an alert there. You can click on it, and it will let you know there is a change to that field. If you're looking at the loan info screen, or if you're looking at other screens within Byte, if it's showing up red, there could be an alert there. There could be a field note there that you want to be aware of. But the first place you want to look, far right-hand side, under your compliance lights. All right. Now, a quick note here that I want you to be aware of: field notes are primarily used by the appraisal order department. All right. FYI. Make sure you note that field notes are primarily used by the appraisal order department. Primarily, that's where you're going to get your notes from, but there will be instances that it could be someone else, but it's primarily used by the appraisal order department. All right. So with that being said, we're moving right along here, but I want to kind of pause for a quick second and say to you, hopefully, up until this point, you might have noticed that there are some things or some tools that you haven't been utilizing, some things that you haven't been aware of or you weren't aware of. Hopefully you are noting those things. I'm making sure I'm dropping my hints here and there to make sure that you're highlighting that information. But those tools that we have talked about so far, please, 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 if you have questions about those, contact us. Contact the training department, contact BytePro support so that we can assist you more, make sure that you're comfortable utilizing it. And you can always go back to this presentation in order to kind of get familiar with those steps. How do I get there? What are these tools used for? All right. Let's keep working our way across. We talked about the new file icon, open file. We talked about clean info. You'll notice that rename, that's grayed out. If it's grayed out, like we said before, that means that that's something that you cannot do. Don't be alarmed. If you're supposed to be able to do that, contact us, contact BytePro support, and we'll see about getting that access to you. The next one that you're able to click on, though, is going to be our copy button. Copy button, exactly what it sounds like. All right. This copy button simply highlights the loan to which that you're going to copy. You want to highlight the loan that you want to copy and then click on this copy button. All right. So if you have a loan that you want to make a copy of, make sure that it's highlighted first. Click on copy and it will allow you to make a copy of it. A pop-up is going to appear, and the only option you have to copy is a limited copy. All right. So you cannot change this copy option field that you see here on this pop-up. Very, very important note, hint, hint. This will only copy the borrower's information, which is basically the info from the 1003. All right. When you're utilizing this copy feature, it will only copy the borrower's information, which is basically the info from the 1003. Now, when you copy the loan should always start in pre-qual status. I emphasize should. You are going to want to make sure you're verifying and validating that it's in pre-qual status. All right. So that's another important note. You must access the status screen in order to make sure the file shows in a pre-qual status. And we've talked about the status screen a couple different times. Make sure you're going into that loan the moment you open that file. The moment you make a copy, go into the file. The first thing you need to be doing is looking at your status field, which is going to be on your main screen. Make sure that it's showing in pre-qual status. Also, it's imperative, hint, hint, make sure you note this, it is imperative to navigate to the loan home screen and make sure there is a loan officer and processor assigned. All right? So you must make sure that you add a loan officer and processor. They need to be assigned. If you do not do that, we're going to have access issues, then you're going to end up having to contact Byte and having someone add a processor or loan officer for you. So make sure you're doing that. Two things that you want to be very aware of when you're copying a file. All right? Making sure that the file is in pre-qual status and a loan officer and processor is assigned. All right? So make sure you put a star next to that. Especially if you're copying files, put a star next to those. Those are two very important bullet points. The last icon that we're going to talk about is optimal blue. You'll notice that these other three, move, delete, undelete, those are all grayed out. Optimal blue will be covered in much greater detail in a separate training. For now, what you want to be aware of is where to find it, and that this button will launch Optimal Blue, which allows you to run pricing scenarios without having to create the file first in Byte. Very, very, very useful. So if you're a person that you want to you're running pricing, you want to see what the scenarios are looking like, this is a good place to start without having to start the file in Byte first. All right. Again, that's going to be covered in a lot more detail in a separate training further along over the next couple months. Or make sure you come and join our 3-day training because we talk about it in a lot of great detail there as well. All right. Give everyone a quick moment to jot down any notes or questions, comments that they might have in their email before we move on. All right.